Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is DinoGenics. Now, when I saw this, the first time they actually contacted me about this game, I was like, DinoGenics? L. Ron Hubbard? No, it's DinoGenics. But anyway, maybe I am going clear and I don't realize it. Anyway, so DinoGenics. DinoGenics is a worker placement game. Yay, I love worker placement. And it combines that with, well, Jurassic Park, I guess. Each person is going to have their own dinosaur park on an island, right? And you're all going to be like combining DNA to create dinosaurs and to place them in your park. You got to make sure you have the right facilities for them. You got to build fences to protect your people. And then the people show up, right? And then the dinosaurs go crazy and they eat those people, which, you know, hey, right? I went to all those movies and they're pretty awesome. And so this is a Euro game with a fun theme. So I really enjoyed it. My daughter really enjoyed it. She loves dinosaurs. And we had a lot of fun with this one. Plus, my gaming group had a lot of fun with it as well. But let me show you how the game is played. Then we'll come back here and I'll tell you exactly why we had a lot of fun with it. Alright, cool. Alright, so here we go with DinoGenics, and I'm going to show you how the game is played. Now, this is a worker placement game. So when you play this game, if you're familiar with worker placement games, this should be pretty basic. But if you're not, what it is that you're going to have different meeples, and depending upon the number of players that you have, if you're playing with 3 players, you're going to get 4 of these dudes. If you have 4 or 5 players, you're going to get 3 of these meeples. And what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to pick a spot to put your worker, and then you're going to take the action that is available for that particular spot. Now, you'll notice that there is a limited number of spots in each of these locations. And you can't normally place a worker down on a spot that's already been taken. Now, you can, there's an actual spot called Outsource here, that if you go there and spend a little bit of money, then you're able to go ahead and use a spot that somebody else has used by claiming that location. But I'm going to talk more about all those different locations a little bit later, but I just want to talk about that really quick. Now, each person's going to get a player board right here, and that's going to have their park. As you can probably guess, they have one side of the park that is all about like placing your dinosaurs in your dinosaur pens. You get 4 of these fences to begin the game, and you set them up in a little fence that's right in that location. And then you have these locations here that you're going to be using to place your other exhibits, like hotels for people to come and visit. You start off with a basic hotel that you can see these 2 little red squares. That means you can have 2 visitors come and visit. The more visitors, obviously, that come to your park, the more victory points you're going to get, and also they spend money, and that's one of the main ways you get money is by getting people to come to your park. Now, this board is not a player board. This board is actually like a status board. This little arrow here points to what part of the season it is, and these little blocks here talk about the number of visitors that will show up. And during the preseason, what it is kind of like everybody getting ready. There's nobody coming to visit or anything like that, so you're not going to have any visitors show up then. But after that first preseason, you're going to have like Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and so forth as it goes. And you can see you're going to have like several, like more and more like people are going to start showing up at the parks, and the person that has like, you know, the best park, like meaning that they are like in first place, you know, as far as the reputation of the park goes, will, you know, actually not only like does the reputation of the park and the best park mean that you get to go first, because reputation determines turn order, which is right here as well, but it also says like you get like 3, and then the second player will get 3, third player will get 3, and the fourth player gets 2, and the fifth player would get 2. Now, these wouldn't be used in this location during the seasons because of the fact that there only is 5 players. Also, at the bottom of this, it'll say how many bonus visitors show up. Bonus visitors are handed out. The person that is in first place gets the first 2 bonus visitors. So in this case, like the very first time you have a bonus, in Season 1 there's 2 bonus visitors. Only the first player would get those 2 bonus visitors if they have room for them. And then everybody else gets 1. You keep going through. So if you're playing a 3-player game and it was like Season 5, where it has 6 bonus visitors and you divvy those out, what happens is that the first person gets 2, and then you're playing with 3 players, then the second person would get 1, the third person would get 1, and now you've used up 4 of the 6, so there's 2 left. So now you go back to the first person gets 1, the second person gets 1, and then that's all the bonus visitors. Pretty straightforward. The game lasts, as you can see, 6 seasons, and after 6 seasons what will happen is that you'll determine who has the most points, and they'll be the winner of the game. Alright, so more about actually playing the game. So the first turn, the turn orders turn randomly. After that, it's just going to be the reputation. You gain reputation mostly by putting dinosaurs in your park. There are other things, other buildings you can build and things like that will help out. But for the most part, it is going to be putting dinosaurs, because people like dinosaurs and they think they're awesome and they think they're cool. So there's all these different locations that are on this board, and I'm going to talk about all of them here. But the first one I'm going to start off with is the city center, because the city center is where a lot of actions are going to be taken. At the beginning of the game, you put all of these basic hotels here. The basic hotels they cost 3 coins. You can see that in the bottom left. And they have a spot for 2 visitors. And so, like, if you build this, you just go ahead and place it on your player board like so. That's how that works. Now, there's 8 of these tiles that are in the game, and you stack them all in this first stack right there, and that takes up. There are these 3 locations for these 3 other ones, and those are randomly taken from the stack of the tiles that you have for the game. Now, some of these might be like a bigger, better hotel. Like here for 5 coins, now you can have 3 people stay in this particular hotel, and they might help. Some of them would be like this dome that costs 7 coins to build, but this allows you then to be able to put pteranodons in your particular park. And also, notice on the bottom left, or bottom right I should say, there it says that like 4 victory points, but it's in green. That means that it is built on the park side, so you'd play this on there. Whereas this hotel here, you can see, actually is built, like, you can see that it's worth 0 victory points, but it's in gray, meaning that it's built on that side. Now, some of these things are like this carnivore biome exhibit. And so if you build this, it actually has something where it says at the end of the game, you score 3 victory points for every carnivore that you have on your island. So that's like, you know, end game scoring. And so you'd build that if you're going to go with a carnivore heavy plant or whatever here. All right, so the city center, that's one of the actions is you can purchase a facility. That is one of the 4 different actions that you can take. And then it's quite simple. You take the tile and you go ahead and you put it over here, and you know that's pretty straightforward. You can also purchase 3 fences, which are these white bars here. When you purchase fences, you have to place them immediately on your dinosaur island. You are allowed to, however, take all of the dinosaurs and all of the fences that you have already on your island and reset them up in any configuration you wish. So if you're feeling constrained and maybe you've like boxed yourself into a corner on your map, you are allowed to just wipe it clean and rebuild it every single time you build the fences. You know, and that, you know, you'll end up doing that a lot, as you can probably guess, because you need to, like, you know, be able to like reset everything, if you will. Another thing you can do is repair facilities there. If you have like, occasionally, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, dinosaurs will rampage. Well, what dinosaur park wouldn't have problems with dinosaurs eating people and attacking things? Sometimes, like, you'll have a facility that you have, and then for whatever reason, you didn't plan well, and they will get damaged. And so you'll have to place a token on there to show that they are damaged. When they're damaged, you can't use them until you repair them. So for 3 coins, or for $3, you're allowed to fix and repair a facility and put it back to work for you. Finally, the last thing you can do at the city center is you can use the DNA market, which is down here. Now, you start with 3 DNA cards to begin with, and then you can build up your DNA hand to be able to you know, purchase other DNA cards, which allows you to clone and create dinosaurs. When you use a DNA card, you can buy one of them that's on one of these 3 cards that's on there for the current buy cost, or you can sell one of your DNA cards from your hand for the sell value that it's located, and then you're going to place it in this section, and that's going to push them all like that. Now underneath this particular location here, you can see it has -2 money. So this particular card here, the Stegosaurus DNA, why don't I just show this to you? So here's a DNA card. So it'll tell you exactly what. So the Stegosaurus DNA, it tells you that it's worth 3 victory points if you have a Stegosaurus in your park. It's worth 2 reputation, and it has to have a habitat that is 2 spaces big. Otherwise, it won't. It could possibly rampage. And then you can see it costs 0 meat a season because it's a herbivore, so you don't have to actually collect meat to feed them. And also, they're simple-minded, so it ignores all effects from events. And I'll talk about events here in just a little bit. And if you're going to buy this from the level, it costs 4 coins. If you're going to sell it, you get 2 coins for selling it, and that's a Stegosaurus DNA. Now, you might be saying, well, how many of these cards do I need? This number up here tells you how many of these DNA you need to create a Stegosaurus and place it into your particular park. So you would need 3 Stegosaurus DNA. Now this one has a buy of 4 on it because it's in this location. Then it costs a buy of 2 if you wish to put it in that location. So that's how you use the city center, and that's how you use that location. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about is the DinoGenics IOM or IOM or whatever. If you place a worker over here, this is where you actually turn in your DNA cards to build your dinosaur. So if we're going to build this Stegosaurus, let's say we had 3 of those particular things, we would then be able to turn them in and take one of these dinosaur tokens, and these will be, as I understand, dinosaur meeples in the final version of the game. But you'll be able to take this and you'll be able to place it in your in your park. Now, you're allowed to place your dinosaurs wherever you like. However, if they aren't placed in an adequate spot for it, then you run the risk of having it going berserk and you having problems. So we read on that card before that they need a second habitat. So what we would have to have done, and we could do it after the fact as well, is we could go here and we could build up, like we could have purchased those fences, and we could have built a 2 spot, and we'd have this extra fence left over. We could even, so we can move that out, place it over here, maybe even place it in this location. Maybe we're planning to diverge over here, but we have that extra spot. And the thing about dinosaurs is that you could have another Stegosaurus. Now you don't want to, normally you don't want to mix dinosaurs. There is the Ankylosaurus actually is willing to stay with any dinosaurs because they're tough and they have that turtle shell, if you will, and they will be happy to be with it. But in this case, you could have 2 Stegosaurus in this enclosure because they're both in a 2-spot space. They can both be in that location, and that's so that's what the DinoGenics IOM is. Now, let's say you're having some bad luck and you haven't been able to collect like a certain number that you want. You can turn in any 3 DNA you want and create a mutant dinosaur. And this is what a mutant dinosaur looks like. Now, mutant dinosaurs are kind of neat in the fact that, like, you can build them, and you can feed them meat if you want. And mutant dinosaurs, if you feed them meat and you feed them to meat, they will create another mutant dinosaur. Meaning, basically you fed them enough for them to create another one. You can only do that once a turn. If you have like 2, you can't spend 4 meat and get 2 more. You can only get 1 more. But if you wanted to just have a strategy of saying, I want just a bunch of mutant dinosaurs that look crazy and cool, you can do that and build those up. And that's a strategy I have used quite a few times. I like the idea of having mutant dinosaurs running around my park. All right, so the other locations are you can, like, if you go to Site A, of course I gotta find it, Site A, you receive 2 cards from the DNA deck. You just draw them off the DNA deck there. Site B, if you go here, you can receive 3 cards from the DNA deck, and you only get to keep 1, but then discard the other 2. If you go over here to the farm, you collect 3 meat tokens, so you can use those to feed your carnivores. If you go to the agency, you can receive 2 manipulation cards, and I'll talk about manipulation cards in a little bit. But if you go to the agency here, you can go ahead and collect 2 manipulation tokens, and you can discard a Scandal token, because it's like an ad agency to kind of talk big about yours. You get Scandal tokens mostly for your dinosaurs running amok and killing visitors and things like that. But you can also get Scandals by going to the Boneyard. And over here, if you go to the Boneyard, you can go ahead and search through the DNA market, like discard pile, basically. And then you can grab any discarded DNA you want, but then you get a Scandal card for doing so. If you go to the uplink, that allows you to play one of your manipulation cards. If you just go to the ferry, that gets you, of course I was going to point to the ferry, you get 3 coins. And if you go to the timeshare, you get 1 coin and you get 1 visitor, but you have to have sufficient hotel space. And I should also mention that you have to be able to actually take the action that is on the spot for you to be able to take the spot. You can't just take the spot to block it from somebody else so they can't have it. So just keep that in mind as you're taking these locations. All right, so that is, like, so each person will basically take, they'll be placing their figures, taking those actions, taking those turns. They'll be adjusting their victory points on the track that goes around the board. They'll be adjusting reputation tracks as they take their actions and create dinosaurs. Until finally, once everybody is done, and once everybody has, used all of their workers, then you're going to go into the upkeep phase. So, beginning the upkeep phase, first thing you're going to do is you have to feed your carnivores. So if you have carnivores that have to be fed, you have to feed them. So let's say you had a Pteranodon. So here is like a pterodactyl. And the carnivore needs 1 meat a season. So you'd have to have at least 1 meat to feed each one of your pterodactyls that you had. If you can't, they will go berserk. Like a Tyrannosaurus Rex needs 3 meat every season. You can't just say, well, I have 2 meats, I'm not going to feed them anything. You have to feed them all the meat you possibly can, but they're still going to rebel against you. So after you feed all your carnivores, that's when you're going to do a rampage. And I'll talk about how the rampage works here in just a little bit. But dinosaur rampages, if they occupy a pen that's smaller than the requirements, if it's an open space, so like notice how this is open because there's no fences. The only creature that's okay with being in an open space is a brontosaurus, a big, giant, peace-loving, giant brontosaurus who can wander around and not be bothered. So they can be fine in open space, but no other animals. If they're in open space, they will go berserk. If the carnivore is not fed, or if 2 or more unique dinosaur species occupy a pen. So like, let's say instead of having 2 stegosaurus we had here, for whatever reason, you had like a mutant and that stegosaurus in there. So now you're gonna have a dinosaur rampage in that particular spot. So those are the different possibilities for rampage. Remember, rampage, we'll come back to it. I just want to talk about everything about the upkeep phase. So if you had visitors in your park, you return them to the visitor pool, which for me is this little tray right there. Every visitor you return, you get 3 victory points for doing so. Remember that you got 1 coin when each visitor came and visited your park. You calculate all victory points from dinosaurs and building effects, if applicable, and then you gain any building effect resources, and then you return all of your agents, which are your workers. You return all of your agents to each owner, and then you advance the season one step, like on the track here. Now, I should mention during season 3, each person gets 1 extra worker. So you know this isn't a game where, like, a lot of times in worker placement games, like, there's actions that get you workers. In this case, when in the 3rd turn, everybody's just going to get another worker. Now, okay, so there's one other thing I didn't touch on before I talk about Dinosaur Rampage, because Dinosaur Rampages are cool. This breaking news thing, the first turn of the game, you're going to turn one of these over, and you're going to put it in the upcoming. What this is something that's going to happen. So breaking news, unsupervised tourists taunts dinosaur. If your park has 2 or more occupied hotels, remove 1 dinosaur adjacent fence. So, like, this is one of those things where it is in the upcoming, and then when you draw the next one, this is going to be the event for that turn. So at the very beginning, during the preseason, you turn one over, there's no event, but then the second season, this would be the event that occurs, and then the breaking news for the next one was new dig site discovered on mainland. During the season, 2 workers may be deployed to this event to draw 3 DNA cards. So basically it adds a couple of worker placement spots. So they're not always like a bad thing. They can be a good thing that people can take advantage of, and you go ahead and put that down there. And so these just will travel as they will. With each turn. And the deck is large enough that you won't go through all of them, which I really like, meaning that you can't count on certain events to show up, something that I really like about games when basically it removes any kind of deterministic quality of it. Alright, so manipulation cards, I just wanted to show you a couple of them. Manipulation cards are kind of like dirty tricks. So this isn't and you have to go on. You have to play them. You go on the spot. This isn't something you can just play whenever you want. So each player starting with this is genetic tampering. Each player starting with you may discard a DNA card to place a mutant into their park. Then you may discard X number of DNA cards to evolve a mutant in your park. And so then you can evolve it into, like another dinosaur. See, and that's so it's something that everybody can get help by because they can go ahead and get one. Like here's Infiltrator. Choose 2 different non-umpling spaces occupied by opponent's workers. Carry out the space actions of each as if you placed a worker on there. So these are very powerful, but they are also situational as well. So and you get one to begin with, but then if you want to draw the cards, you have to use the space to draw them later. So something else that's added to the game. Alright, so I talked about a lot. So dinosaur rampage time. So when dinosaurs rampage, because they didn't get enough food to eat, they don't like the people they're in a fence with, what will happen is you will roll these dice. And so, and you can see, and they have all these cool things, and this is the only one that the smiley face is the only result that is good, and that's only on one of the sides of the 6 places. So the rampage is the bad thing here. So when you rampage, it's the worst possible result. When you roll this, you assign 1 point of damage to an adjacent park structure, and then you kill a visitor. So it will this is bad. You're going to get scandal for that. So that's bad. If you have this is half the sides of the dice have that, and that's a slash. If you roll a slash result, you assign a point of damage to adjacent park structure. So they'll crush something and they'll destroy it. And this could be fences and things like that. And sometimes because fences can crumble, they will actually then cause further rampages. That has kind of like a domino effect. Now the one good thing is this, where it says this is the naive visitor result. And when this happens, the park security holds fast, and so when the dinosaur attacks or rampages because it didn't get enough to eat, it does no damage to the park. Your security works, and then one visitor loved the show so much they thought it was part of the experience, and they actually give you another money for the show and how great it was. So that's the only possible one that you can have. And so, but remember, for when the people die, if one of your hotels gets smashed, all the people in the hotel die. So people dying obviously is very bad because one, you can't return them for the points because they're dead, and then also you get scandals for that. And scandals are worth 6 negative points at the end of the game if you're unable to get rid of them, before the game is over. All right, so ultimately, after the whole game is done, after you go through all 6 seasons, you calculate any building multipliers if you have them, any building bonus points if you have them, you do any final scoring bonuses, and then remove 6 points for each scandal token, as I said, and then you will see who has the most points and they win. Whoever, in the event of a tie, the player with the highest on the final round on the reputation track is the winner, if that's the case. And then I should say the final scoring bonuses, I mentioned those. For each type of legally penned dinosaur in your park, you score 3 victory points. And you score 1 victory point for every 3 money that you have left over after the fact. Alright, so there you go. I mean, it's got a lot. This is one of those games where you think, oh my gosh, there's so many different choices, there's so many things going on. But after you play a round or two, you just figure it out. There will be, in the first time you play it, you're going to be referencing the rule book a lot, like trying to say, oh wait, what does this spot do, or what did that spot do? But once you've played it, you'll know exactly. Like I said, you're going to be going here, and you get to go and use City Center and take these actions. You get to two of the two different actions over there, and you're going to be using that a lot, right? And you're going to be taking those actions to go ahead and do it. Oh, and I should say the upkeep. If there are any tiles left here, you do get rid of them and put 3 fresh tiles. So if you have a situation where there's a crummy building that nobody wants and it just sits there, that won't happen, because you'll get rid of it and you'll replace it with new tiles from the stacks. So, it's just a lot of fun, right? A friend of mine, when they immediately saw like these little fences, were, oh, it's like Agricola, but it isn't like Agricola. Well, I mean, I guess kind of, because you sort of have to feed people, but it isn't like building a farm. This is one of those games where you're actually kind of building something. But what I really liked about it was that there was like interactions going on with like the manipulation cards, like the different markets and things like that. I love the little breaking news events. I mean, it was a game that like it just hit that little perfect notes for me, if you will. Like as far as a worker placement. Fabulous mechanism that I like in pretty much every game I've ever played that has it, but also combined with a really, really fun theme. But let me talk more about that in my final thoughts. All right, thank you very much for sitting through the how to play as far as DinoGenics go. If you have any questions about that, by all means, you can definitely ask. You could probably go to the Kickstarter page as well, and you could learn a little bit more as far as that is concerned. But exactly why did I like learning about DinoGenics? I mean, DinoGenics... No, so, I mean, as I said, it is a really, really good marriage of mechanics and theme. And I like the fact that it really, in my opinion, it really just ran up and hugged its medium-level Euro difficulty really well. This isn't a game where you have, 7 different resources that you have to juggle. You've got 2. You've got money and you've got food. And if you play your cards right, you don't even have to have food, right? Because you have grass and lots of plants and what have you. And if you just have a bunch of brontosauruses or stegosauruses eating, then you don't have to go with carnivores. Now, admittedly, like, what do people like to see? People like to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex running around and chomping on stuff, or velociraptors. You probably can't see that, but like velociraptors and carnivores can lead to like more victory points, or mutants for that matter. When I was talking about those, but the thing is that it doesn't. You don't have to do that. And like, my daughter won a game by playing. It's like, I'm just going to see how many brontosauruses I can have. I mean, that was like her whole goal, and like she had a couple of ankylosauruses running around with them, and they had fun with it. Now, it's just one of those things where the game itself kind of like allows you to build something. And I've always enjoyed games that allow you to build something. Now, it doesn't have to be like actually like physically building it, but I mean, if it's something on your player board where you can kind of expand on it and kind of create it, you're allowed that ability, if you will, to see it. Like, and I think back when like Agricola came out, that was like the big huge game because you like built a farm, right? And you got to see it be created as you played the game. Now, I don't really want to reference Agricola that much. I mean, because of the fact that I don't think it's a very fair comparison between the two games at all, because I think these are two really distinct entities. But it did give me one of the few things I actually enjoyed about Agricola was the idea of building my farm, right? And building it up, building my house, growing my family, that sort of thing. You could see at the end of the game, whether you won or lost, you got to see the progression, you got to see where you went. And the same thing happens with this game. You get to see that progression. You get to see your theme park grow. One of my favorite games on the computer was always those theme park games and Roller Coaster Tycoon and things like that. I really loved the idea of building things, and this game allows me to once again build something, create something, see how it does. And and plus, I always say this, I want to be able to mess with people a little bit. Now, I'm not talking about, like, you know, flying my pterodactyls over to their island and eating their people. I mean, that would be kind of cool if that was in it. But I mean, with the manipulation cards, you can mess with people a little bit. You can change things up. And the manipulation cards actually do allow you some cool options. Like, there's ones where, like, you can get 3 coins, you can get $3 if you turn the card in. Or you can get $7, but everybody else gets 2. You know, so it's like, do I take a ton of money and everybody else gets a little? So it gives you those options. It gives you those things, those decisions to make. And as I said, I really do like the random effects, the breaking news things that, like, you, and that it isn't like a total, like, unknown thing. Like, you get to plan for it, which also, once again, embraces that medium complexity Euro idea that I really like. I like a game where, you know, as I said, the first time you play, you're going to have, you know, reference, like, what does this spot do, or what does this card do, or those things. You'll have those questions, but for the most part, you're going to know exactly how the game is played, and you're not going to have one person's nose buried in a book, like looking something up and trying to figure out a rule, trying to understand exactly what you're trying to do. You're not going to have that. Everybody's going to be playing the game. Everybody's going to be creating their little dinosaur world. And then after a short period of time, about an hour, you can kind of look at your dinosaur worlds and see who did the best job. And you've had fun the entire way. So whether you win or you lose, you just kind of enjoyed the whole process. And most likely, you and the other players at the board haven't been, like, just quiet staring at the board the entire time trying to figure it out, that you've probably had good conversations and you've referenced Jurassic Park and other dinosaur movies and dinosaur stories and just enjoyed the time you've had with the people at the table, which is the whole purpose of playing the game in the first place, right? Anyway, so there you go. DinoGenics. I love it. I can't wait to see this with the actual, like, dinosaur meeple wooden thing so I can make little roar noises. I mean, yes, these little discs worked perfectly, and, like, these are brontosauruses, and I know that they're brontosauruses, but if I actually had a brontosaurus in my hand, I can go roar. You know, that would be even more fun. So I really can't wait to see the final result, because I think this game is going to be fabulous. But there you go. If you have any questions about DinoGenics, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I am telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right. Bye-bye.